All right, and we're live here, SampleServe Masterclass Wednesdays. Thank you for joining us. I am Joshua Paul. I'm product manager of SampleServe. I have Russell Schindler with us. He's the founder and CEO of SampleServe. Give us a hi, Russell.
How's it going? We missed a couple of weeks there because I was traveling, trade shows and stuff.
Yeah, busy on the road, meeting people, meeting some very interesting new prospects out there, learning a lot about different sampling media, and actually we're gonna share some of the stuff that we learned today, and some of the stuff that we implemented from what we learned.
Yep, talking to customers and other people.
So what we do here on these weekly master classes is, we bring on experts from the field. Sometimes we show you the app, we show you some of the new stuff that we're developing, and we also give you some tips and tricks on how to use the app, and talk about industry standards and where it's going. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the chat. Even when this is over, you can put it in the chat. We'll get to it. And if you know anybody you think this would be helpful to, give this link a share to them as well. This link stays live after this is over as well. And today we're going to be talking about our Sample ENV platform. This is what we usually talk about on Wednesdays. This is our platform for environmental professionals, but not just turning into just environmental professionals. It's turning into anybody that's taking a sample and sending it to a lab or collecting digital data in the field. It's for that. So it kind of one size fits all.
Yep. We don't care what you put in the bottle.
Yeah. And so today we're going to be talking about the release of our new sampling media on our platform, and that's wastewater and drinking water. And this is aimed really for drinking water plants, wastewater plants. It's for high frequency sampling. It's for any kind of engineering firm that manages plants or the plant itself, and also the laboratories that handle the testing of those samples that go through those plants as well, whether it be connected to the plant themselves or a third party lab as well. So Russell, tell us about how you went down. Russell went down to Georgia, and he wasn't looking for a soul to steal. He was actually looking for.
I knew there was going to be a reference as soon as you said that.
And he actually learned a lot from a large drinking water plant down there, and we've been implementing a lot of their needs.
Yep, it's a operation. They've got actually lots of different plants that they operate. It's a contractor, and so we're doing a pilot and getting this pilot set up. And so I was actually going to be down in Atlanta for a trade show later that week. So I just went down early, spent a couple of days with them, and helped them get their plant set up in this pilot program. We were learning a little bit as well. We haven't done a lot. We've done some work at wastewater treatment plants, but not a lot of work. And so, but we don't really care what you put in the container. It's all really the same. There's some subtle differences. But anyway, so we learned a little bit. We helped them get everything set up for this pilot, and then just kind of hung out there for a while, trained some people. They were showing it to some other entities, other plants as well while I was there doing some demos. And it actually went really well. Everyone there was super nice. They had a little pizza party while I was there. So it was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Had a great time.
Sounds like fun. I think so we learned some of the key features that they were interested in, and we didn't have some of those key features at first, and we listened to what they needed, and it didn't take us very long to implement those. And one of them was creating recurring events for them.
Right. Yeah, different than groundwater, some other types of sampling. These guys are sampling the same things every day, all day. That runs 24/7, 365 a year, Christmas, New Year's, everything. They just got to keep collecting these samples. Mm-hmm. And we had the ability to replicate or copy or duplicate a sampling event. So you could do that. But if you're doing something 365 days a year, rather than just duplicate it 365 times, we created the ability to just replicate it very easily. So being able to set it up and go do this every day or do this every week.
It's kind of a set it and forget it situation, because you don't want to go on the platform every single day and plan one of these sampling events.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're, an engineering firm taking groundwater samples, you're doing this, quarterly, or, whenever you have time to do it, you can set this up. And you can still do recurring events for quarterly events or yearly and annually.
Yeah.
You can still set these up, but this helps out more for people that have to set these up every single day.
Right.
You do it once, you set it for one for in the morning, you set one for in the evening, and then they just show up on the field app, and whoever's doing the sampling knows, they click the next one on the list and collect the samples, and 6 hours later or the next day they'll have the next one available.
Yeah, and it just makes it very routine and simple for them to do that. So.
Yeah, or I'm also making it easier for if you go into an individual event, you can change the work scope for that individual one, or you can, if you want to, you can have that change affect all of the future work scopes as well.
Yeah, there's times you're going to have to modify an event, like say Thanksgiving or Christmas. The labs are going to be closed, so they want you to collect that weekly event on a different day other than Thursday, right? So yeah, that's it's all doable. Very simple to use too. That's really the key. It doesn't take a programmer to do this thing. It's any person could figure it out in just seconds. So,
and this feature is going to be made available to all users here in probably about a week or so. And essentially anybody can try it out. Just one thing I like to say is, when you do make that recurring event, even if it's a test event, just monitor it, because after about a month or two out, depending on how often you have this recurring test event, it'll just keep creating events. So you'll have to go in and delete all those afterwards if you're not using them.
If you're just testing it,
yeah. Another feature that we implemented for a different drinking water client, they wanted to know specifically, they wanted their samplers to get a warning if they're too far away from the recorded GPS location of that sample location. And so they had GPS location data for all the sample locations that they have. And there was times where, some of them could get mixed up. They could be sampling a different location on accident. So they wanted to make sure that the sampler was within range, within a certain specific amount of meters away from that sample location, because their tablet knows where you're at. And it would warn you if you're too far out. Now, here's an example of what it looks like. He says right here, you are, what is it?
1,757,000
meters away. Now, that's me testing it from 4 states away. If you're closer, it's going to say, hey, you're 15 meters away, you're 20 meters away. Or if you're at a completely different wrong location, it'll say, hey, you're 1,000 meters away.
It knows the official location of the place that you're supposed to be sampling, and it will then compare the difference from where you are to where the official location is. But if you're within that certain range that you set for the default, like say 10 meters, it simply won't pop up because you're within that range. So
and we've
if you're in the right spot, you won't see that warning.
Yeah. We also made it, you can enter a note as to why. Say that you know more about the location, than the project manager does, and the location changes, and you decide that, hey, actually the location is now over here. You can enter a note why, and then you can change that location in the field.
Or it could be it's pouring down rain and you didn't want to bring your tablet outside the vehicle. So there's all kinds of reasons why you might be outside whatever range they set. Some people have 5 meters, some are 10, some are 50 meters. So.
Yeah. So this feature is live right now on the platform. You do have to ask for this to be turned on. That's the only difference with this feature. So if you request for this to be turned on, we can turn it on and add a certain distance that you would like to have this set for.
Yeah.
So a new feature that we are working on right now, this is going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks or so. It's going to be alarms, alerts, and data validation. So data validation is essentially, you get to decide in your forms and your data collection fields what type of data you would like to be entered, and it gives you
values,
and what kind of range. It gives you all kinds of options. As let's say pH is a great example. It can't go above 14, right? So if somebody does enter something above 14, don't let them enter anything above that. Or you can have them enter something and have a warning and say, hey, this is above the threshold of what we should be entering. And then it can also give you a warning with a comment that says why you entered it above or below that threshold. And you can even set thresholds in between the number lines. You can go 1 through 5 and 15 through 25. You can you can get down to the minute details on these validation.
Yeah, so if you had a pH, right, and you wanted to have them double check the calibration if it was below 5.5 or above 9.5, you can create a comment, say double check your calibration, and then they can confirm that. So there's all kinds of guardrails that you can install to make sure that you're collecting valid data, that they're not, fat fingering some number and putting in a 15 for a pH.
Yeah.
So,
and this is the nice thing about digital data collection. You can't do this on a field form. There's the form's not going to talk to you when you write down a L that looks too much like an I. It just doesn't know. So that's nice about the app. It knows. And then the other thing is alerts and alarms. So the drinking water people were really they're really worried about missed samples, because that's really huge for compliance. You can't miss these samples. They happen every day. They happen often, and they get forgotten sometimes.
It's wastewater too, not just drinking water.
Yeah, wastewater. They'll collect a sample and then they'll put it in the fridge, and then it just sits there because somebody went home instead of bringing it to the laboratory.
Somebody else was supposed to bring it to the lab and they simply forgot.
Right.
And then like if it's a bacteria sample, you can't bring it there the next day. It's not a valid sample any longer. Right. So there's no way to go back in history and collect that sample. So they get a violation because they missed that sample. So
yeah. So we're giving users the options to, select your rules for when the alarms happen, select who you'd like to contact, when,
email, text, phone call,
and how you'd like that alarm to go out. So
another example there is if you want to know that the bacteria sample, that reference I used earlier, hasn't been submitted to the laboratory by noon, because we can track when the lab receives it. If it hasn't been there by noon, you want to text the plant manager, right? So that the plant manager has time to figure out what the problem is and or go collect a new sample before the lab closes.
Right. And the next one. So we're adding a new feature. This is going to be important for all of our users that are sending samples to non-participating laboratories. Non-participating laboratories means that they're not using our lab app. They're receiving either paper chains or being emailed digital chains through the field app, and they're not using the lab app to log samples in, or they're not using the lab app to create their own customized lab test library.
There is a lot of confusion where people think that their lab is required to participate with us. They don't have to. Right. You can just print out a paper copy of the chain of custody, send it to this lab, just like every other chain you've ever seen. Only you're able to read this; it's legible.
Yeah.
The difference is the labs that don't participate, their menu is not populated in the selection list, and so some labs only require 2 VOAs for a VOC analysis. Some want 3. And if they're not participating, we don't know that for sure through the menu, but we allow the user then to add that in themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing is, you just got it. You're putting this in yourself. It's not the laboratory. It's the same as when you're writing it on a paper chain of custody. You have to get these details right. So you have to make sure that, the preservative is right, type of bottle, and the methods all
you want to confirm with your laboratory that you're speccing out the right bottles and the quantities and the right preservative. But once you know that and you're confident, you can enter that information yourself, so you'll be able to then submit that paper chain of custody that's neatly printed without any effort or any problems, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a paper chain of custody, but it's digitally generated. So we know all the details. You don't need to write anything on it. It's already on the paper chain.
You just got to hit print.
Right. You can throw that in there, and you can also email it to the lab as well beforehand.
Some labs, and I worked with lots of them where they didn't really participate, but you would email them the chain of custody, and they would print it out when you got there. They would sign it, and so you didn't have to worry about getting to a printer before you delivered the samples.
Yeah. And there's also going to be future, the next set of improvements is actually going to improve that paper chain, where you can transfer the paper chain back into a digital chain just by scanning a QR code, which is going to be really exciting.
Yeah.
And that's our next venture after this.
Right.
So if you'd like to learn more about SampleServe platform, we do have a virtual demo on the website. It's right there, big button, hit virtual demo. It'll take you through a tour. We got tiny videos. They're about 3 or 4 minutes each. Takes you through each portion of the platform, because there's different apps for different users, the project management tool, the field app, the lab app, digital chain of custody. It'll take you through short videos as well as explanations, and you can also schedule a demo on that page as well. So I highly suggest you go through that and learn more. You can also get signed up. And with these new features, I think it'll make it a lot easier for you to get out in the field or get your plant set up or get your lab set up. So I think that's all we got for today, Russell.
Okay, great. Finished on time.
All right.
Well, thanks.
And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Yep, we'll be here next week. See you.